Hello and welcome to Hawkeye Nation. This is HawkCast, your Iowa football, basketball, and recruiting podcast brought to you by Go Iowa Awesome and Rivals.com. I'm your recruiting analyst and host, Elliot Clough, at Elliot Clough on Twitter, joined by publisher of the site, Adam Jacoby, and of course, our managing editor, Russ Binder, here on this July 3rd evening. Happy Independence Day to those of you who are listening here on the 4th. If you're traveling, safe travels. Make sure you back it up when you're lighting up fireworks. Back it up, Terry. Okay, I just had to make that reference before we started. Now, not a whole lot of Iowa news going on right now, so we're gonna have a little bit of fun on tonight's podcast, answer some premium subscribers' questions. But there are a few things that we wanted to hit on before we get into the fun stuff, I guess. And a couple of them are regarding some pro Hawkeyes, and the other is what we're going to talk about first. Cade McNamara and Brendan Sullivan, QB1 and QB2, presumably, both included in an offseason hype video that Iowa just released yesterday. It's about 30 seconds of them posing with some of the stuff that the social teams used for official visit weekend. It's a really cool video. They social teams at Iowa are just awesome, and it's done really well. So just interesting. That was my first thought watching the video is, oh, Brendan Sullivan and Cade? And I'll go to you here, Ross, first. What do you make of that? What do you think about the social team at Iowa, including both QB1 and QB2 in that social video?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of an interesting choice, but maybe it's more a sign of them viewing Kate. I mean, it's interesting because, like you said, it's QB1, QB2. Ferentz has been pretty adamant, I would say, in his comments that Cade is QB1, assuming he's healthy. But at the same time, stuff like this makes you think, well, is it more, instead of 1 and 2, is it more 1A and 1B with Cade and Sullivan? And I think it's just one more thing to make you wonder heading into the training camp, here in August, and what is the level of Sullivan's play and Cade's play? He's the one with the injury rehab concerns, and how well has he recovered? He's supposed to be full go, but what does he look like? How do they both look in Tim Lester's offense? That's a new wrinkle for everybody. So I think it does just make another thing that makes you go a little bit with that training camp coming up, and see who really is going to be QB1 for Iowa when the season starts on Labor Day weekend. I'd still, if I was betting, I'd bet on Cade for sure still, but there's enough. I think Sullivan winning that job is not, certainly out of the realm of possibility, I would say. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, we heard comments from Tim Lester at that recent golf outing that they like the way that McNamara has been sort of adjusting to his time back on that field, that his body's responding well to the stresses that they're putting him through. And, of course, that's easy to say in late June, early July when you're standing on a driving range or a golf course or what have you. But, publicly they are confident about McNamara. But yeah, these social teams don't really, what's a good way to put this? Sullivan's inclusion in that video is not by accident, right? Like none of this is, oh, whoops, we put a backup in there. There's always some subtle level of, social media strategy. There's some level of, how is this, sort of helping the team? And when you look at Sullivan and the role that he can play potentially after McNamara graduates as the next QB1, then you start to see that this is sort of almost a long-term media play for the team. And, he's obviously going to have to, compete against guys like Razor and I'm blanking on the other young man, Elliot. Who's the other Marco Linez,
Oh, okay.
for crying out loud.
I was gonna. Are we
So-
talking the 25 commit right now?
No, no, that's another Sullivan, a different one. But no, I was trying to think of Marco's name. So obviously, I don't really think necessarily that this is a sign that Sullivan's got 2025 locked up per se, but I do think it is a little bit of an inkling as to where the team is thinking this is going to go. And Ross, you're right. Until we see McNamara on the field for all 12 to 15 games that Iowa might play next year, you do sort of have to have Brendan Sullivan ready to go at a moment's notice, just like they kind of needed Deacon Hill to be a little bit more ready than he was. And I'm not really putting that on Deacon. That was just an impossible situation. But, you know, you got to be really lucky to only need one QB in a season. And typically Iowa has not had that sort of luck. So yeah, absolutely interesting. There was one other thing that I noticed in that video, and that was, and this is just the most minute sort of stuff, but the little bumper that they have around the face mask, they switch that to black. And so it's black hats, black face mask, black bumper. So really it's more like a blackout type helmet, which I think is a little bit cooler of a look for this team. A little bit of a departure from years past. I think it was a white bumper, or maybe it was gold. It was one of the two. And like that pops in a way. But yeah, this is just a slightly different aesthetic thing that I think is going to be pretty cool. And I say that wearing a pretty much all black shirt myself. So maybe I'm a little bit biased here. So yeah, like little breadcrumbs for us to follow, but it's early July. That's all we get in July. And if we get more than that, it's usually a bad thing. So we'll be happy with this.
There are a couple things that I guess noted that might be a little bit different of what you guys are thinking. Not that I disagree with you, but it's just different. I guarantee that Cade hates this. I guarantee it. Because he wants to be QB1 and QB1 far and away, right? Like everybody does, more or less. Of course, you like competition. Of course, all that stuff, the whatever. That might be some lip service. But we've also heard some stuff behind the scenes about how, well, he didn't love J.J. McCarthy once J.J. McCarthy got his starting job at Michigan. And I'm not saying that there's turmoil behind the scenes. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying I'm sure Cade hates that Brendan Sullivan was featured in that video. The second thing is a troll responded to one of my tweets, or my only tweet about it, and said something about how it's so they can return to this when Cade is hurt by week 3. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough, yeah. Then
It's
the
that
third thing,
it's that old meme, the old meme, the worst person you know just made a great
right,
point.
right. And the third thing is it's excitement. It's a transfer that got brought in. It's the new shiny toy, right? Like Jacob Gill was almost featured in it. You saw the start of the number 5 in there, and I think that was just a hey, look what we. And the other thing is Caleb Brown definitely would have been featured in this, and what just happened not just happened. So that's something. Seth Anderson was in it. Nick Jackson, Jay Higgins, Sebastian Castro, LaShawn Williams, Caleb Johnson, Luke Lachey, Deontay Craig, a lot of the guys who have been around for a while, and the transfers and folks that get people excited. Ross, what do you have here?
I say, who's not in it, and he made sure he commented underneath the tweet was X Xavier Wampa.
Yeah, what did he say? I didn't see it.
I didn't either.
Couldn't make the cut. Teary eye emoticon or emoji.
Well,
Oh,
I
they're
guess there goes
tanking his
that.
NIL.
X didn't make it after tryouts. I think that's what they're telling us.
Also, Adam, just to confirm, on Bumper Watch, they were white last year, so they are now black, according to the helmets in this 15-second hype video. So
I've got the media book that we all got at the bowl game last year too, and they were indeed white. Chin straps were white too, and now they're black. And then I saw somebody pointed out that they're wearing yellow socks. Like Seth Anderson was wearing yellow socks, and they previously were wearing black socks. This media guide has them cut off at the knees, so I can't really tell, but that's what I guess one of them it kind of looks like. So that's something of note as well. Seth Anderson was yellow from his waist down to his shoes. So I don't know. That's something. Speaking of which, I had that prompt on Twitter for fans, and then on our premium board too about the script jerseys. Both the yellow and the idea of the script got the people who are very much they're avid supporters of tradition. Oh, it got them. Oh, it threw them for a tizzy. Oh, they did not like that at all. Got their panties in a wad. Good Lord. Script on a football jersey? Who would even consider that?
What is this, French football now?
It was definitely a polarizing question, Elliot, because I was tagged on that as well. So it showed up in my mentions too. And there were some people excited for it, and there were some people that were the exact opposite of excited for it. And they were both very passionate in their stances, I thought.
I got a response of like people saying, "You don't know anything." What? I'm not even. It's just a question. Golly.
That's a surprise. I thought you knew a few things by now, but I guess not because of an opinion on script on a football jersey. And like some of them look fine. They looked fine. It wouldn't surprise me if Iowa never did it, but like the one of the people that responded with the script on the like shoulder part, I thought looked pretty cool. And like if Iowa were an Adidas school, they probably would have already done something like that by now. It's not really Nike's avenue. It's more of an Adidas and a little bit of an Under Armour sort of move that's sort of off the wall. Like we took a random design thing and threw it on the jersey. That's more their lane than Nike's. And so that's the reason why I don't think Iowa's going to do something like that. But it looks cool. Like it looks fine. And, tradition's fine, but it doesn't have to be a prison, guys. Come on.
I'll share that it was by Matt in Iowa at Matt KEMM. Matt, we'll tag you when we post this. Check it out because I thought it was really cool. Like you mentioned, Adam, he and I'll tag that in the description too, just so folks can check it out. I thought it was sweet. Just trying to start some conversation in the off season, and that's what I get. Anyway.
And driving away tens of thousands of fans from the program. How dare you? How dare you, sir?
Losing followers in the process. Golly. Anyway, on to some basketball and some professional news as of late. Caitlin Clark named an all-star. Just another notch in her belt in terms of, in my opinion, and I think some fans' opinions, an FU to the Olympic selection committee. Just like, didn't she lead everybody in all-star voting? Like the previous year was Asia Wilson who had like 20,000, and then this year it was Caitlin Clark who had like 700,000. I saw on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was legit or not, but
it wasn't 20,000, but it was under 100,000. It was like mid to high 90s that Asia Wilson got last year. And so the fact that Caitlin surpassed that and not only surpassed that by orders of magnitude, but that so much of the voting also surpassed that. I didn't see the full numbers after like the top 5 because the WNBA, like, why would you put that in your voting results? Don't do anything like that. But like all of them were in like mid to high six digits, and so that is like, to me, that is a sign that the Caitlin Clark hype is not limited to Caitlin Clark, and that all of the worrying that a lot of the old guard in the WNBA had about, oh, well, make sure you're lifting up the whole sport and make sure you're not just making it about her. Here you go. Yeah, like there it is. That is your smoking gun that, yes, Caitlin Clark is the most popular in the league. Yes, she's the big draw. Yes, she is driving attention that the league hasn't seen in decades. Correct. It is not coming at the expense of anybody else in the league. It is doing it in benefit of the rest of the league. And people are paying attention to the WNBA again, like they have not in decades. And so I think we can and should put to bed any of this Caitlin versus old guard nonsense and all of the off-court foolishness that doesn't have anything to do with basketball. Let's be done with that. Let's be done with resenting the positive attention that Caitlin Clark gets, because it's not nearly the danger that the gatekeepers wanted it to be. It is, and here is that proof in cold hard numbers that we've been waiting for. She is lifting up the popularity of the entire league, even her rivals. Even Angel Reese got 300 some thousand votes, which is in and of itself 4 times as much as Asia Wilson, the leading vote getter, got last year. So this is what success in the Caitlin Clark era looks like. And again, like it doesn't make her above reproach. It doesn't make her above any sort of criticism or this or that. But it does mean that it is not turning into the Caitlin Clark only show in the WNBA like some of the people have been worrying about. We can be done with that now. And that's the end of my rant on that. Did you guys have any other thoughts on how that all shook out? I'm really excited to see her playing this All-Star game.
They're playing, it's the All-Stars versus the Olympic.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it?
Oh yeah.
We're about to see just how much that selection committee poked the bear, like Christy Sides shared with the public just recently. So Ross, did you have anything to offer or to add on that?
No, I mean, I think Adam summed it up very nicely. And I mean, the other takeaway is that we get Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese on the same team for the first time ever. So, will be interesting. I'm sure Caitlin will be threading some passes her way, and we'll get to see how well she finishes. And yeah, it should just be a fun game.
I think they would work together really well, honestly.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And that's going to
not-
drive a lot of people crazy too. But I think they'd work great together.
Yeah, I think it could be a lot of fun, honestly, because Angel Reese is an excellent finisher around the rim. So if you got a player that can get her the ball in good areas, which we know that's certainly a strength of Caitlin's game, it could be very fun. And it's an all-star game. So hopefully, defense takes a back seat probably.
So who's going to start the trade rumors of Aaliyah Boston for Angel Reese straight up? Who's going to open that door?
Well, now it's you. This is what they're going to clip this.
I think you just did, Adam. Congratulations.
More and more people are saying it. And
breaking
by
news.
that, I mean 0 to 1.
Hopefully, Angel will finish a couple layups. Shots fired here on HawkCast. Second bit of professional basketball news for Iowa fans. Luka Garza signs a 2-year extension, not a 2-way contract with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ross, you were saying it a little bit before we hopped on here. He's their 4th big. He's behind Karl Anthony Towns. He's behind Rudy Gobert. He's behind Naz Reid. So he's not getting a bunch of money. Well, he's going to get a bunch of money. Relative to the rest of the NBA, he's maybe not going to get a bunch of money. He's going to get a good amount of money to be on an NBA team, and he's a reliable backup that you can trust to go in and get you buckets when you need them, and to fill a backup role in an 82-game season where you're inevitably going to have to see some of these guys, whether it's injury, rest, what have you. So congrats to Luka. Again, I said this before we started recording too. I haven't paid a lick of attention to the NBA. I just don't have the bandwidth in my mind to do so. So I don't know how well Luka's been doing, but clearly well enough to get that contract. Ross, you seem like you were pretty informed about the situation, at least when we were talking about it off camera, off mic.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's going to be the 4th big there. He's behind Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, 3 very good big men going to play heavy minutes for the Wolves. But, there's a role for Luka. He got in he got playoff minutes this year. I mean, in blowouts, but he's still there. Like you said, Elliot, it's a long season. Guys get hurt. Guys just need a break. Whatever happens, and he'll be there. He'll be able to fill in those minutes. He's an extremely well liked guy. The teammates love him. The city loves him. He's a great teammate, just really positive, and he's a guy that I think it was an easy decision to bring him back for reasons that go beyond just what he brings on the basketball court. And he's a good basketball player. He's not in a situation where he's going to get to play a lot of minutes or get a lot of points or anything, but he can come in and contribute for 5 to 8 minutes or whatever they need him to do, and there's a role for that. That's valuable in the NBA, and that's great for Luka. I can't think of another Iowa player in the last 10 years. Well, probably a few, but the Murray twins have busted their asses too, for sure. But from what he came into Iowa as to where he's at now in the NBA, like, that's really impressive. Like, he has done a hell of a job. Adam, what did you?
Yeah, let's also not discount the effect of this. Like, it is a veteran's minimum contract for his tenure, but it's 2 years and $4.5 million. And last year on his two-way contract, he was making about 130,000. So this is a gigantic step up in money for him. And like, he's finally got 2 commas in his annual salary now. And yeah, Ross, like you said, he worked his butt off to get here. He is a better player than he was at Iowa, even though his minutes are, obviously never going to be on that level. His production's never going to be on that level. But he did prove that he can contribute in the playoffs. There was one game against the Nuggets. It was one of the T-Wolves blowout wins where he was outscoring Denver in the fourth quarter by himself until some layup with like 20 seconds to go by the Nuggets. And so then, like, the final score in the fourth quarter was Nuggets 9, Garza 8. And like the rest of the T-Wolves had like 20, right? So like, it's, if he's just going to be Bosnian Boban and sort of fill that, or like be their bench peacock or what have you, look, they're good with that. And I'm like, who's not going to be good with that? And, it's not like they're investing tens of millions of dollars in him. He's making a vet minimum, and he's going to be that bench glue guy where if something happens to one of the bigs, throw him in for 20 games and he will, the ship's not going to sink when he's in, playing 20 minutes a game versus 5 to 10. So, hats off to him. Like, his career arc and the way that he's sort of built to get to this point, can't say enough about that.
Now, on to some of the more fun off-season stuff. I'm hoping that you folks aren't hearing the population of Cedar Rapids sending off fireworks here as I'm sitting in my apartment in you just moved to Cedar Rapids, the city of 5 seasons, that's what they call it. Yeah. So welcome, Adam. Anyway, as we're talking a little bit more about some of the more fun off-season stuff, commits, a few more commits after official visit weekend. Since the last time we talked, Brad Fitzgibbon and Charles Bell adding to the numbers of the 2025 recruiting class. And that was a question for us from one of our premium subscribers. We're going to get to some of those throughout tonight's pod. From Jay Hoosh 43, who I believe is a newer member with us at iowa.rivals.com. Welcome, Jay Hoosh 43. Would love to have any more join us at iowa.rivals.com. You can do that now, iowa.rivals.com/subscribe. Of course, that link will be in the description as well. But Jay Hoosh 43 asking, he said it feels like there were fewer commitments following the summer recruiting weekend than in previous years. The big official visit weekend is what he's getting at. Is this accurate? How many total recruits were at the event and how many committed? Now, total number, I don't know off the top of my head. There are 12 commits now, 4 committed off the weekend, and I believe there were 9 that were uncommitted that made the trip. 2 have since committed elsewhere, and Joshua Guerriere, he picked Pitt, while Brock Heath has committed to Kansas State. And then 4 that did commit were Lucas Allgaier, Cameron Herron, Brad Fitzgibbon, and Charles Bell. A few have yet to commit, who are Christian Hudson, Terrence Smith, Scott Starzik, and I think that's it. Starzik is a high tier kicker, one of the best in the country, an All-American. Terrence Smith, a receiver out of Illinois, and Christian Hudson, a defensive tackle from Florida that I just posted a screenshot of. He posted an image on his Instagram story of him wearing an Iowa beanie and potentially Iowa gloves. Just that was it. So interesting to drop. He'll be committing this weekend, whether it's Iowa, Iowa State, Maryland, or UCF. We will see. But back to the original question. Between the three of us, we have just had a brief conversation about who our favorite commits out of the 12 that have committed are. And before we get to it, I will just stress the elephant in the room, the 4-star elephant in the room, and that is Thomas Meyer out of Clear Lake. He is a tight end. It's tight end U. He's the only 4-star commit on the list. So we're just going to kind of omit him from this conversation just because he's the easy go-to, right? It's tight end U. He's a 4-star prospect, and he's an in-state recruit. And he was a Rivals 250 prospect at one point in time as well. So going to be probably one of the best tight ends in the class when it's all said and done. But let's start off here. I'm going to go to Ross. You shared with us who your favorite commit is in this class, but share it with the people. I know they've been dying to hear it.
They've been on pins and needles, I'm sure. I'm going with Charles Bell, who was a recent commit. Like you said, he signed or verbaled over right after that big visit weekend, which was great to see. And I really like, I'm a sucker for defensive backs, and he's got some really fun film, and he shows just some really, really impressive ball skills to me, which is a great sign, at that level, of high school ball. Pre-senior season, obviously, and so to get a guy with that caliber of ability already, that kind of instincts and skills, and you're going to throw him in the Iowa defensive back room, let him soak up Phil Parker's wisdom and teachings for the next 3, 4, however many years. That's just really exciting to me. Like, I think you've mentioned that he's a 3-star, but he seems like he could maybe be a little bit higher. We'll see how things shake out. But, I think he's just a little bit under the radar. He's got some, like I said, really, really exciting film. And just the idea of adding that kind of talent and letting, Phil Parker mold that, he does such a great job always with the defensive backs. He has, he's a great eye for talent. And I think this is another really good find for Parker. And I'm very excited to see what he does at Iowa.
One thing I shared with our premium subscribers briefly, and I won't dive in too much into it, but he was a 5'6" 3-star, which is a mid-tier 3-star for us. I thought he should have been a fringe 4-star, high-tier 3-star at 5'7". He is 6'2", 170, so plenty of room to grow, but he's long. You mentioned the ball skills. I believe he was listed as a wide receiver on a couple of the other recruiting sites, which is incorrect. But he also had offers from Wisconsin, Tennessee, Penn State, Notre Dame, Minnesota, North Carolina State, Boston College. Rutgers was a strong player in his recruitment up until the end. And of course, he chose Iowa, got some interest from LSU as well. So this is a guy that I think may fly a little bit under the radar because he is a mid-tier 3-star prospect. But and typically what Iowa does when they recruit DBs is they tell them, oh, you could play any of the 3 positions between safety, corner, and cash. This guy's a corner. He's too thin, maybe a little bit even too tall to play cash. Probably not as rangy as you'd want him to be at that strong safety spot. But I think he's going to be a really good corner. Like he's got played a mixture of man-to-man press coverage, zone coverage, and I think he's a little bit more physical than one would think, considering he's 6'2", 170 pounds, twig thin, but he's got some room to grow. And now, Adam, who are you most excited about on this list?
I'll be honest, Elliot, I'm going to go with a guy that both you and I have seen play live, and who both you and I were a little bit iffy on after we saw him play, and that's Mason Woods. And I think some of that is just, I don't want to call it an inability of City West to figure out what his best role is, but it doesn't really seem like they, if you guys could see the face Elliot just made, no, like it's not entirely clear, and this is a big reason why he's listed as an athlete. It's not really entirely clear what his best role is on a football team as yet. It is pretty clear that he's very athletic and that he's got, well, one, his dad is LeVar Woods, for crying out loud. But two, like, he's clearly got D1 athleticism. And so some of it's just going to be a matter of getting him into Iowa City, getting him into the strength and conditioning program, and seeing how his body really, gets into its best self. And Elliot, like you mentioned, maybe he needs to slim down if he's going to play receiver. Maybe this is a situation where, he's going to be better suited to the defensive side of the ball once he like grows into his body. Who he really reminds me of, guys, is another prospect who looked a little bit tentative on the field, but definitely looked athletic. And that was Noah Fant. And that sort of slow development in his high school career is why Nebraska drug their feet on recruiting him out of Omaha, or I think it was Omaha, somewhere in that eastern Nebraska, in that Omaha metro area. But they drug their feet on him. Iowa did not. They saw the obvious gifts. And when you watch that Woods tape, you can see he's putting it together, and you can see that the potential on him is sky high. And given, who his dad is, given the resources that the University of Iowa has in developing these athletes, I think if he stays healthy, he has way higher potential than another 5'6" 3-star, like we've got him listed here. I understand why he's listed there. But coaches like Chris Kleeman at KSU, Lance Leipold at KU, Drinkwitz at Mizzou, they're offering him, and they know a whole lot about developing talent too. So Iowa beat out some really, really good talent developers to get Woods, and obviously they had a little bit of a head start on him. But I really do think that his ceiling is high, even though we haven't seen the best of what he can offer on a high school football field yet.
Yeah. So we won't dive into that too much, right? I think he's spread a little bit thin on what he was doing at Iowa City West between DB, receiver, obviously their best player at times. Now they've got Colin Witters and Juju Manson, who are ascending and have kind of found their roles. Witters is going to play a lot of offensive line, probably guard this coming year, though he did play defensive tackle. Juju Manson can do so many different things. He's being recruited as an athlete as well. But Woods could play tight end. He could play receiver. I mean, I think he had emphasized the offensive side of the ball is where he wants to be. The thing is, Iowa has 2 tight end commits in Thomas Meyer and Eli Johnson. If he does move to wide receiver, he's going to need to get a little bit faster. He's going to need to slim down a little bit. But he does run track, and he didn't quite break 11 in the 100 this year. That's something he wants to do next season. But I think the potential is there if he focuses on one position, and we'll see how things shake out, see how he develops. Now, my favorite, man, being the recruiting analyst, you get so much of a closer look at these guys than otherwise would. So it's so easy to see this is why Iowa likes him, and you can really hammer on that. And I feel that about 5 or 6 of these guys. 2 of them you guys just listed. Now, the tough part for me is choosing between those individuals. Ross, you were talking about the defensive backs, Charles Bell, the other Drew McPherson. These 2 linebackers in this class I really like. Burt Goucher, I think, was probably one of the most underrated players in this class, honestly, and probably Illinois. He could be an awesome will linebacker. He just ran a 4.4 40 at the Iowa's camp. So he could play cash. Carson Cooney is a bona fide Mike linebacker in this class. Joey Van Wetzinga, almost a perfect fit at center for what George Barnett wants to do. Eli Johnson, more of that blocking tight end who we have yet to see be more of a receiver, but has a lot of that potential. Of course, I talked about Thomas Meyer. Cameron Herron, I think, is a perfect fit at guard. Lucas Allgaier is nasty on both sides of the ball. We talked about both of them last week. Jimmy Sullivan, I think, is probably the best quarterback recruit Iowa has gotten in a while. John Budmeyer is in love with this kid. Tim Lester, very high on him as well. I think that he's probably going to be next up after Brendan Sullivan and Cade McNamara are gone. We'll see how much Marco develops. We'll see if he's just another player, another quarterback that enters the portal. I don't know what James Reeser is. I don't even know that he ends up playing quarterback at Iowa. Hot take. We'll see. But my choice here, with all of that in mind, is going to be the most recent commit, and that's Brad Fitzgibbon. You turn on his tape. He's a defensive tackle out of Chicago Marist, another 3-star that probably could be close to a 4-star. I think his recruitment would have picked up much more significantly if he didn't only play 5 games last year. I haven't talked to him about that extensively. I believe that's due to injury, but he's a guy that he has over a 4.0 GPA at Chicago Marist, which is a private school in Chicago, a very well-known academic school. Former teammate of John Nestor. When I talked to him in May, premium subscribers knew this. I future casted him right after that conversation because he is the prototypical defensive tackle that Kelvin Bell brings in and molds into probably an NFL draft pick. Whether he plays the 1 or 3 tech, I think is dependent on who else they bring in because he is tall, but he's also wide. So he could play either one. I think he'd be good at either one. He's, you know what his specialty is? And I didn't write this because it's a little bit difficult to write out and also continue to sound professional. But his specialty on the defensive line is effing the play up. Like one way or another, he's gonna F the play up. And I think on top of that, like in talking to him, he sounds like Aaron Graves. Like, no, I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Graves. I'm not saying he's a Max Preps #1 national athlete of the year or anything like that. I think Graves is really going to fulfill a lot of that potential this year. I'm not saying Brad Fitzgibbon is going to be that, nor is he that right now. But I think he is just the prototypical mold of what Kelvin Bell brings in at defensive tackle and what he could be. I don't think he's going to get on the field necessarily as a freshman or anything crazy like that. It takes a while for these guys to learn this defense, how they operate. But he is just a guy that knows what he's getting in Iowa football and is Iowa football. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, that description. Yeah, Aaron Graves would qualify there. You know, Ross, who else it reminds me a whole lot of is Matt Krul. And we saw what Krul and especially a really disruptive defensive tackle like Mitch King right next to him was capable of doing back. I don't want to consider how many years ago that was. So I'm just going to say it was more than 5. But if Iowa can find a way to recreate the as we called it way back when, the cruel and unusual punishment tandem at defensive tackle with with Fitzgibbon and whoever else that they might have there, I think it's going to pay tremendous benefits as they move forward.
Now, with all of that taken care of, again, a reminder that other defensive tackle in this class may well be Christian Hudson. We'll see. His decision comes up on Saturday, and I'll be talking to some folks and see what I can learn regarding that choice coming up. And of course, we'll be sharing that with our premium subscribers. If you want to join us today, it's at iowa.rivals.com/subscribes. Terrence Smith making a decision soon, and of course, Scott Starzik has a choice coming up here as well. I don't know that Iowa's done even after all of these announcements with this 25 class. I could see some recruitments going into the fall, like we saw last year with the defensive back class and the 2024 class. But we will see, and of course, I'll keep everyone apprised there on our premium board with our premium subscribers. Now, before we get out of here, we had a couple questions from our premium subscribers. Number 1 here from RRH Hawk. Speaking of recruiting, asked Adam, any news on the women's basketball recruiting going on right now?
No real updates as yet. recently. I know that they are targeting some 2027, 2028 recruits. Jensen is pretty famous for getting on these recruits pretty early. So we're still monitoring this sort of situation. Wish I had more on that front, honestly, but it has been a little bit slow as the coaching staff. I know that they've been sort of out and traveling around, but they're still working through that. So RRH Hawk, wish I had more for you. Really do.
It is that time of year. Not a ton going on with basketball, especially with the live periods over. But on to a couple more fun questions, of course, from Waterloo Chaz. This first one, we saw Lester and some other coaches play some golf. Does Kirk Ferentz play golf? Does he use a set of McGregor clubs from 1987 bought at Kmart? Because fancy ain't always better. Waterloo Chaz with the comedy. Do we know, does Kirk golf? I don't know that I've ever seen any photos or video or anything like that in my year and a half on the beat.
That's a really good question, actually. And, Adam and I have been following Iowa football and reporting on it for quite some time. And I honestly cannot recall seeing pictures or video of him playing golf. My guess would be that he plays, but probably not a ton. He doesn't strike me as a guy that is, oh, I got to get out, for 9 holes or something. Like I think he does it in a professional capacity. Maybe I'm not sure. He's definitely never, he's had a lot of press appearances over 25 years, and I don't recall one where he, was extolling the virtues of the game of golf and his passion for it. So, do you remember anything like that, Adam?
I had to Google it while you were talking here because I too could not ever picture him with a golf club in his hand, even though I'm fairly certain he lives on a golf course in one of those luxury homes. And so the lead sentence of this story by Mitch Sherman from ESPN before the 2018 season was Iowa City, Iowa. Kirk Ferentz quit golfing 20 years ago. He vacations every July in his backyard. But that is, and 1998 was the year before he got hired at Iowa. So there is a reason why we can't remember him ever being a golfer at Iowa. He has never been a golfer at Iowa. So question answered, and hat tip to Mitch Sherman, because I would not have been able to figure that one out otherwise.
That is big J journalism right there from ESPN doing their thing. Now, the other question that we got from Waterloo Chaz that we can hit because it is July, with the Olympics coming up, he wanted to know what our top 3 nations in terms of gold medals will be for the 2024 Summer Olympics, as well as and I'll hit this question afterwards. America, America, top 3 in gold because they're gonna kick everybody's ass. How's that? I'm the most patriotic individual on this podcast, and I will die with that. I have a flag in the back that you can't see because my apartment looks haunted as I'm just using a ring light here. But I don't freaking know. Originally, my some history in my family is Swedish. Throw them in there. They could be a long, distant fourth because America's taking all top 3. How's that?
I'm right there with you, brother. My number 1 is you. My number 2 is S, and my number 3 is of A. USA, USA. No, I have no idea who's going to win medals. Other countries too, I guess. I don't know who's good at Summer Olympics. I know that the Scandinavians are good at winter. That's all I got.
I'll say I'll chime in here before you, Ross, and quote Daniel Tosh and say the Winter Olympics refer to find out which country has the most rich white kids. There you go, Scandinavia. That's all I got.
Yeah, I don't think Sweden is going to clean up at the Summer Games this year, but you never know. We'll see. I think patriotism aside, the USA will win a lot of medals because they always win a lot of medals at the Summer Games. So I think that will continue.
Greatest country
China,
on earth, baby.
It's America's birthday tomorrow or
Hell yeah.
today. Today, if you're listening to this on Thursday, which you probably are. So yeah,
I wonder if
that's
our friends in Nova Scotia are already celebrating America's birthday, because it's technically the 4th there. And Canada, America's hat. They're buddies, right? They would celebrate on our behalf, right? Right?
I
I
mean,
don't know, Joe.
I celebrated Canada Day on Monday, so I hope they're celebrating us tomorrow. So
with the Labatt's, I hope.
God no, please give me some taste. And other than America, I mean, China's going to win a bunch of medals. They do. And number 3, I don't know. Australia, why not? They'll win a bunch of swimming medals probably. So
It's hot there all the time. So they got the advantage. Summer Olympics. The last question that we'll field from Waterloo Chaz here regarding some predictions ahead this summer. He wants to know who our hay bale toss winner choice will be for the 2024 Solon Beef Days. And I'm going to take the lead and say Logan Jones. That dude is a freak when it comes to throwing weight around. So he is my choice.
Oh yeah, like this is the hay bale toss is serious business. I think it's either Logan Jones or Aaron Graves. I don't see anybody like it's almost always an Iowan. So Ross, am I
man,
missing anyone?
yeah, the defending champion Jennings Dunker. I mean,
I was going to say Dunker. Yeah.
That's right. He
I'll
is the
take
defending
him.
champ. All right. Well, we're giving you minus 350 on that one.
Hey, he and Logan were hurt all spring, so maybe there's somebody else we could throw in there. Who was it that you said, Adam? Aaron Graves? That might be a good choice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
Hard hitting.
they're healing up for the hay bale toss. Ross, who was it that hurt themselves in that? It wasn't Drew Tate, was it? Am I mashing things up in my head? But didn't
I mean,
somebody get like pulling like an oblique or something like that
the
long
the
ago?
legend has always been that Drew Tate got hurt in the
Okay.
hay bale toss. I don't think that was ever true, but it's a fun story. And I think what it really means is we cannot let Cade McNamara cannot participate in the hay bale toss as a participant, as a competitor. He can watch it. He can cheerlead on his linemen. He should not throw any hay bales. That would be an extremely poor idea.
We almost shouldn't let Cade walk across campus to go to class at this rate. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll wrap it up there. We'll wrap it up there for this episode of HawkCast. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, don't forget, if you are not a premium subscriber, you can join us right now at iowa.rivals.com/subscribe for all the recruiting content, basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball, off-season intel, all of that. Couple commitments coming up here soon. We will have all the info there on our premium boards. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment. Who's your favorite commit in this class? Let us know down below of those 12. And maybe Christian Hudson is committed by the time you're watching this. Is he your favorite? Let us know. Same thing for Terrence Smith. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave that rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. That all helps us out so much, and we appreciate it. For now, I am Elliot Clough at Elliot Clough on Twitter, joined by Adam Jacoby, publisher of the site, managing editor Ross Binder. For now, we will see you next time.